America is in the middle of a productivity boom. Corporate output is rising, profits are strong, and artificial intelligence is supercharging efficiency across industries. But here's the paradox that's starting to worry economists. Even as companies produce more, they're hiring less. It's what Goldman Sachs recently called jobless growth, a phenomenon where technology boosts productivity, but the benefits don't flow to workers or to new jobs. So how did we get here? And what does this mean for the future of the US economy? Let's unpack it. For decades, the link between productivity and employment was simple. When businesses became more productive, they grew, hired more people, and raised wages. Productivity was the engine of prosperity. But something has changed. Over the past year, productivity in the US has jumped at its fastest pace since 2003, largely thanks to automation, AI tools, and digital infrastructure. Yet job growth has stalled. The unemployment rate has ticked upward, and job openings have fallen below pre-pandemic levels. That disconnect is what economists are calling the AI gap. Let's take an example. In finance, trading desks that once employed teams of analysts now run on AI algorithms. In customer service, generative AI tools handle thousands of queries that used to require call centers. In logistics, self-learning software is optimizing routes, cutting hours, and reducing staff needs. In short, work is being done faster, cheaper, and with fewer people. At first glance, that sounds great for productivity, but it also means the economic pie is growing without being shared as widely. Here's how it happens. When AI tools replace tasks rather than entire jobs, companies don't always need to fire workers immediately. They simply don't rehire when people leave. Over time, the headcount quietly shrinks while output keeps climbing. And for many white-collar workers, that shift is already visible. AI assistants can now summarize meetings, write reports, code, design presentations, and even generate marketing plans. That's not science fiction anymore. It's happening inside companies like IBM, Meta, and even Walmart. Speaking of Walmart, the world's largest retailer just partnered with OpenAI to integrate ChatGPT-powered shopping directly into its digital platform. Customers can now describe what they need. Say, "I'm hosting a football party for 10." And the chatbot builds a full cart of items automatically. It's a perfect example of how AI boosts convenience and efficiency. But here's the flip side. It also replaces thousands of low-level customer service interactions that used to be handled by humans, either online or in stores. This is what economists call invisible automation. It doesn't show up in factory robots or layoffs. It shows up as quietly shrinking hiring plans, flatter wage growth, and increased reliance on software systems. And this is where the jobless growth debate gets real. Because while productivity gains are fantastic for corporate margins and GDP, they create a challenge for workers, especially in sectors where AI replaces middle-skill jobs. Think marketing assistants, HR recruiters, customer support agents, data analysts, paralegals, the very jobs that made up the backbone of modern offices. The result? Companies are getting leaner, faster, and more profitable, but the labor market is fragmenting. High-skill workers who can manage, train, or deploy AI systems are in high demand and commanding premium salaries. But for everyone else, opportunities are tightening. The middle is hollowing out. This is what economists refer to as the hourglass effect. Jobs are clustering at the top and bottom of the pay scale, with fewer in between. At the top, we have AI engineers, data scientists, and systems architects, the people building and managing these tools. At the bottom, there are still plenty of service jobs: food, delivery, healthcare support, logistics. But the middle, the administrative, analytical, and managerial layers that powered corporate America for 50 years, is shrinking. And that matters. Because historically, it's the middle class that drives consumer spending, home ownership, and long-term economic stability. If productivity keeps rising but job creation doesn't, we could see a scenario where the economy looks strong on paper. But ordinary Americans don't feel it. Even the Federal Reserve is paying attention. In its latest report, the Fed noted that despite strong output growth, wage inflation is slowing, a sign that businesses are producing more without competing for as much labor. Some might argue this is good, that AI will lower costs, reduce prices, and make goods more affordable. But others warn that without wage growth, demand could stagnate. After all, who buys the products when fewer people are earning enough to afford them? So what's the solution? Experts point to three key areas. First, reskilling. Companies need to retrain their existing workforce to use and manage AI tools, not replace them with it. The businesses that get this right will be the ones that keep morale, productivity, and innovation balanced. Second, shared growth. If AI drives massive profit gains, corporations can reinvest those earnings in wages, benefits, and workforce training. Otherwise, the productivity gap becomes a social gap, widening inequality and fueling resentment. Third, public policy. Lawmakers may need to rethink how productivity is measured, how education is funded, and how safety nets evolve for a world where full-time jobs are less stable. Because here's the truth. The AI revolution is not about replacing humans. It's about redefining the value humans bring. Creativity, empathy, leadership, and strategy still can't be coded. But if companies rely too heavily on automation, they risk losing the human advantage that built their success in the first place. Jamie Dimon once said that technology doesn't destroy jobs, it changes them. And while that may be true, the pace of change now is what's making the difference. The transition that once took decades is happening in years. So as AI drives America's productivity to new highs, the challenge isn't whether the economy can grow, it's whether people can keep up. We're entering an age where growth without jobs could become the new normal. The question for business leaders and policymakers is simple. Can we make sure that the next wave of productivity doesn't leave workers behind? Because if technology becomes the only one winning, the economy eventually loses.